Hari Om. Hari Om. Hari Om. Hello, my friends. Everything just today went a bit upside down. So I'm a bit late, but finally we meet. I want to tell you an experience I had when I still was a young lad before I came to India. That gave me actually a good pointer what direction it goes. I was in Zurich waiting for the train. It was evening. People came back from work. I was standing there at the outside bar, standing table, drinking something and looking at the people and thinking, oh my God, everybody is in such a bad mood. Here and there you could see a smile, but everybody looked so stressed, so grumpy. And just mechanically going along, coming from the work, going home, barely alive, I felt. And then I thought, okay, I can see that, so let me try to do something about it. And then I opened up to light, opened up to the sun, and felt like I'm trying now to radiate some light, some sun power into this dreary crowd. I did that for a while, and then I heard beside me one man who was talking with a woman, and actually he saw the same. He saw how people were in such a grumpy mood, and he was going on about it, and oh, it's terrible, and suddenly he stopped and looked at me in astonishment, and he said to her, look at that guy, look, there is somebody there who is radiating. the, who is not like this whole crowd being barely alive and grumpy and stressed and in a bad mood. It was like a response from the universe giving me a pointer. Really, this is the direction. Instead of looking around and criticizing what is going on, instead of looking around and criticizing people, when we see something that we don't like, we can also learn from this that we are making an effort not to slip into that mood. That's what I somehow by grace did at that moment, and it influenced the fellow who was close by in such a way that he suddenly stopped going on about all the people and being very happy. And after that, we exchanged some words, and then he had to go catch his train and walked away very happy. It was such a pointer. But then, nevertheless, in spite of getting pointers like this, and I think everybody is getting pointers like this. But in spite of getting all that, still I had to go through quite a thing slipping in my own grumpiness again and again, slipping in my own anger, slipping in my own not being satisfied with what is, but wanting things that my way, as I have in mind. And so, in spite of the pointer, I had to go through a lot of work until it's more and more dawned. What that lesson that I had learned there as a young lad, this is the way. Instead of being dissatisfied with other people, instead of being dissatisfied with the world, instead of being dissatisfied with God, take the situation as it is. That doesn't mean we have to think it's a nice situation. We can very well look out and see, oh, something is very much amiss in what is going on. But then instead of letting us getting depressed because of it, instead of getting sucked into negativity, we can get inspired by visions that we see that we don't like, by people we meet that we feel they are not behaving so wonderfully. We can get inspired that at least we come back to ourselves and let that inner beauty express itself, instead of letting the mind pull us into our scenarios that we are building up and resisting what is. As long as that resistance is there, we are always at war. If we can accept the situations as they are, without judging, not say this is good, this is bad, but accepting the situations as they are, and then just make the best out of it. Be as self-conscious, not as ego-conscious, but as self-conscious as we can, and let that beauty of the self express itself. I mean, when I remember that experience, it was such a clear pointer, and for some time it was echoing in my mind, but slowly, slowly it faded away, and it took years. Hey, there it is. Aha. Oh, oh, oh. And it took years until really that became a clarity that didn't disappear all the time. If we just open the heart and take those pointers serious, then maybe we can avoid a lot of trouble. Maybe we can learn to live our life without resisting all the time and flow with the current of life and be in the present and let that life story, instead of being a story of struggle and struggle and struggle, be a story of expressing one's inner beauty, learning and growing with every moment, and let the consciousness in a playful, joyous way expand and expand and expand. All right. Just felt like sharing that experience because it came back to me these days, remembering, hey, actually, I knew already the direction, but I had to struggle quite a lot until I was ready to let go my self-importance and learn to be in that present and accept the situations and flow with what is coming and be in touch with the essence and let that essence express itself. Hari Om. Hario. All right. Then I stop talking and I'm asking you, my friends, is there anybody who would like to say something? You're welcome. Hello, Dayal.
Hello, Werner. Hello. I want to ask you about there's some stories like was meditating for many years in the cave or maybe in the forest or somewhere not communicated with normal people many years. And
Yes.
then he come to the normal life somehow, and he find himself still irritated by small things. But he was meditating for many years. And
Uh-huh.
what this story is about, what they talking about, what kind of wrong meditation maybe or
Yeah.
whatever.
Uh, uh, for a moment, your connection was not so good. You talking about whom?
It's just a story,
Ah,
not a personal story. Just sometimes they talking that somebody meditating many years
yes.
and very seriously and in this kind of deep samadhi maybe, but still he come back and get irritated. What
Yeah.
is about this wrong type of meditations?
Uh, there's nothing wrong with their meditation, basically. But you can have wonderful states, you can have wonderful experiences, you may develop all kinds of abilities, but if we fail to have a good look at ourselves, look that we are still locked into that image of a personality, then these traits will come along with us. Also in a more powerful situation, and then they can become even more dangerous. Somehow or other, every meditator, every practitioner has to learn to have a good, honest look at themselves and see where there is that attachment and not simply shift the self-image from an ordinary person to a better person, to a spiritual person, to a yogic person, to a accomplished person. These are still personal stories. And as long as that attachment to that personality is there, then all the reactions will be there. On the other hand, somebody may completely detach from that and then come to the world and appear to the other people to be quite an ordinary person, how they are behaving. And they may react to things, but they may very well always be detached from it and not really be a victim from the situation. There are Mahatmas, they never bothered to fine tune their external behavior and their character. But like Nisargadatta Maharaj, he was an accomplished master. He never bothered to somehow change his villager ways from the Indian villages, which are quite rough. How they are talking with each other and appearing to get quite irritated about things. But for him, this was a game. He knew that I am not this person playing that role and not bothering changing the appearance of that role. So you cannot be sure judging from the appearances. But you're right, there are many other practitioners who may have great states, but who feel very proud about that, and then they come out to people and they expect that this is being respected. And if they don't get that respect, they may get very irritated about it. And that is not just a playful story they are playing, but they are totally identified with it. Both is possible. But it's difficult to judge from the outer appearance whether the one is really attached to it or whether it's just playing that role. A Mahatma may show anger, a Mahatma may get irritated, but always deep down be very aware. I am not affected by all this. There is something that is so totally beyond all this and not in any way affected.
So Werner, if we will continue talking about this case when the meditator not really looking to his personality,
Yes.
and what's the way to avoid to looking the personality if he's in the cave or in the monastery? So what he is doing wrong when he's not avoiding to honest look to himself?
We have to get rid of our self-importance, of that feeling that me, I'm a separate personality. We can go to a monastery and start practicing and be very proud of what we are doing there and feel very superior about everybody else who is not doing this kind of practice. Then a certain confrontation cannot be avoided if somebody lives like this. Certain things have to be confronted and you have to deal with it, but it's still possible that on a more subtler and less obvious way, one is hanging on very strongly to that. Me, I am this personality and I'm now a practitioner and I'm now getting somewhere. So I'm an advanced practitioner. I am an accomplished yogi and all these things can hang on in spite of being a lot alone and practicing and meditating. Maybe having great experiences in the meditation sometime, but then when one comes out of that experience and is not careful, then can come exactly that feeling, okay, now after all, I'm getting somewhere. So we have to be alert and always have a good look at ourselves. And even if we are capable of mastering grosser manifestations of that egoistic personality, getting over certain reactions, then still have that alertness and have that honest good look at oneself, and then we become easily aware, oh, that same mechanism has been sneaking in again, just in a subtler way. And that is possible that one overlooks that. But if we are alert, we will sooner or later will become aware. It's still the same story. I'm still doing the same things. It's just looking more spiritual. It's just subtler, but basically the mechanisms are still the same. And once you are aware of that, you can work on it to also let go that. And then it will start to sneak in again in a subtler way. And it goes on. We need that alertness to really be honest and see, am I starting now that game, me and the others and me great and me advanced and me. And if as long as that is there, then the whole red tail comes along with it.
Okay, Werner, thank you. As I understand, this is a question of sincerity in honesty.
Yes.
If someone have it, he will going through, and someone will get stuck on the half of the way. Is it correct?
Right. It is possible. If somebody has that sincerity, they don't need any other guide, but their own sincerity. If somebody is with a teacher who is really a competent teacher, then the teacher may every now and then say, hey, look, have a good look at yourself, and play all the guru games to just show the disciple, hey, uh, look how you're reacting still. But if we don't have that luxury of somebody being there and pointing the finger, pushing the buttons, then that sincerity is needed. If that is there, that is enough to carry you through the whole ocean of samsara.
Thank you, Werner. Hari Om, Hari Om.
Hari Om, Hari Om, Hari Om. Is there anybody else who would like to come in?
Hello.
Hello, Andreas.
How do you work on losing that self-importance?
How do you work? By doing exactly what I have said, by being sincere and alert and having an honest look at oneself. Because when you are on the way, more and more you become aware what is preventing me from being natural, is holding on to that very me, is holding on to that differentiating all the time, me and the others, good and bad, I'm better, he's better, I'm worse, he's worse. And if we see that mechanism, then we take a step back and look at it instead of encouraging it, and looking how absurd most of the time it is, how useless it is. And the more we become aware how useless it is, there is a certain feeling of embarrassment that it's still there, and that helps to detach from it. But that honest, sincere look at oneself is necessary. We cannot somehow bypass that.
A lot of times I can see it, but I don't get out of it.
Still, you are not in it. Like when you are not even aware that it is happening, then you are totally in the midst of it. Then when you see what's going on, and you even have the notion that you want to detach from it, it may look like you are not capable of detaching, but still it's totally a different situation than when you just mindlessly repeat the same mechanisms over and over. And in this situation, it's not a very pleasant situation to see our reactions, wanting to detach from them and have the feeling it's not possible, I can't detach. But the very mood of not liking what you are seeing is already creating a detachment. It may take its own time until it really manifests, but you are on the good way by seeing those mechanisms and having the intent to detach from them. And there you are detaching most of the time more than you are aware of, and eventually it will manifest that it loses its power over you.
In the things that you said before, does that also line out a different way of spiritual development? Like I find myself like Dial a lot of times trapped, or maybe I shouldn't speak about Dial, about me, but in getting special states, or and reaching something through meditation. And what you're lining out seems to be more to be, yeah, losing the identification with yourself and taking yourself not so much important, and that the special states of meditation don't seem so important for that.
Yes.
Or are they only helpful in the respect that they can help you lose the self-importance and the identification with yourself so much?
Special states of peace, of feeling of being one, being connected, of expansion, they are purifying. We don't have to develop pride about, oh, I'm getting somewhere, but we can be grateful because it's purifying the mind. It's clarifying our vision. If we are always in state of agitation, of running here, of being driven there, then it's very difficult to see what's going on. But if you, in your practice, have these moments of grace, where it's really becoming quiet and beautiful and expansive and maybe blissful, then that is like washing washing the mind, cleaning the mind, and then it becomes, with that increased clarity, it becomes easier to look in a subtle, alert way at oneself, at what one is experiencing. But at the same time, it is also a possibility that one slips exactly because of those wonderful experiences in the old trap and starts to develop that what people call a spiritual ego. Gotten somewhere. We don't have to run after experiences. It's not that we have to get into a state that we can have wonderful experiences all the time. But we don't have to push away and run away from experiences. Just be here, be now, do your practice and be open. And if such moments come, you can accept them as moments of grace. With humility, accepting, thank you very much. But use that increased clarity to be that much the subtler, the more honest, and the more alert how we are looking at ourselves.
As I understand you right now, the meditation isn't like before. I was thinking that through meditation, it's very important to reach certain states, and that is the spiritual development. But right now, I understand you more in the way that it's just helpful, but it's not necessary. The real goals are something different, to detach basically and to lose the self-importance.
Right, exactly. But I believed very much for a long time the same thing that you just said, that I have to work and push myself into states in order to get somewhere. At least it has helped me to continue. It was there like an incentive to, if I'm practicing good, then I'm getting eventually wonderful states. And from there, it will be much more glorious, my story. But then it's not the point that we are pushing ourselves into those states. The point is that we get rooted in that awareness of being consciously conscious here now and learn to relax in that. And the more you are rooted, the less power the old habits have, the old personality has, the whole patterns we are carrying along. And those experiences, those states, they help us because they purify. And when we are getting purified, it's easier to deal with the obstacles, but it's not a journey of attaining something, but a journey of getting rid of what we are unnecessarily carrying along.
And to a lot of times I'm very self-centered and it's very self-concerned. And if I do like intense meditation practices, then yeah, this sometimes might even get worse, like that I'm constantly checking on myself. And so would you recommend doing some kind of different approaches like loving kindness meditation, or like when you described the experience in Zurich that you uh, yeah, that you just make kind of practice that you feel more connected or loving with other people?
Right. These are all aspects that should be naturally there. And if we are focusing on certain aspects that can help us to come to that essence, when you are in connection with that essence, then those virtues simply start to manifest. But sometimes it may be helpful to hold on to some virtue, knowing it's now not the point that I'm getting a better and better personality, that I'm getting holier and holier in order to reach my goal, but simply that by being aware, by practicing this, you become more aware what is, not of what I have to become, what already is. And so all these loving kindness meditations can be very helpful, but it's not like you have now a whole list of different meditations you have to go through in order to in order to come home. We just have to come home.
Yeah, I still don't know how to do that exactly, but I thought maybe if I look at myself, I mean, a lot of the distancing from other people, or like, let's put it in a different way, like a very central subconscious motivation is a lack of self-esteem in myself, that I'm constantly trying to prove myself. And sometimes this is even a barrier to other people too. And so would it be helpful to work on that, to to be more loving kind with yourself and accept yourself more, and then if this basic drive weakens, then you can be more present?
Right. Certainly a way to go about it. Yes.
Because otherwise I feel it's always spoiling my efforts and attempts in a way.
It's spoiling. What is spoiling?
Spoiling is like verfälschen in
Yeah,
German.
yes,
The,
yes.
the,
I understand the word
the,
spoiling, but what is spoiling your efforts?
there's a subconscious intention to prove to prove that I'm worthy.
That's right.
The drive of esteem makes it always spoiling the efforts.
If whatever you have described helps you to let go of that, then definitely that is worth to practice, to consciously practice. Like we can consciously make intense, like to in a relative limited form, but still to some degree it spontaneously happened when I was that young boy in Zurich, that suddenly that intent was there. And certainly this kind of intents, they help to purify, they help to get rid of all those mental those mental blocks that come simply from our upbringing. Hey, you, who are you to do such a thing? Who are you to think that getting somewhere? Who are you to, I cannot be good enough, and all those things that hold us back, that we are carrying along and that have the tendency to come back again and again. Then sometimes it's helpful to intend the opposite, to intend to be, to have that loving kindness for yourself and for everybody else. No, it's also a tool. It's helpful to become consciously conscious, consciously aware, but it's pointing in the right direction. It's getting closer to awareness that we are not separate. It's getting closer to awareness, to the awareness that I'm not this little fellow whom I was told to be my whole life long. And but after that, I told myself all the time, I'm this little fellow with all these flaws. You are essentially a divine being, pure and pristine.
So how much healing you have to do? I mean, to this, like, let's call it like wounded inner child, or can you just go without this and just get to this presence without much healing?
The healing has to go on until it's not more necessary. That doesn't mean, but that doesn't mean we have to go and do healing practices. Well, when you learn to become more and more aware in the present, self-aware, not ego-aware, aware, more and more aware of that something essential is there prior to all my mental stuff, then the healing is happening all by itself. We can do healing practices. There's nothing wrong with that. We can do very specific healing meditations, techniques. You cannot do all that, but even if you don't do any of that, you just are here now. And then the obstacles come from the mind. And we learn to deal with those obstacles. We see them, we look at them, learn to detach from them, learn to let go of them. Then the healing is going on all by itself.
Okay.
Shall we leave it for today? Okay.
Thank you.
You're
Hari Om.
welcome. Hari Om. Hari Om. Is there anybody else who would like to say something? You're welcome to do so. It's very difficult for the mind. And what is the mind? The mind is just our habitual way of thinking and feeling. Our habitual way of putting thoughts on one on top of each other, one after the other, and creating emotions. And for that habit, it's very difficult to somehow even open up to the possibility that all that we are looking for is already here. It's already now. It's never absent. That we cannot really do anything about it because it's already here. It's not something that has to be achieved. It's not something that has to be reached. And yet, At the same time, we have to do something about the situation. As the mind is going on, turning around and around, creating contradictions, creating tensions, creating pains and suffering. We have to do something about that, not in order to reach a goal that is somewhere away, but to reach that goal that is already there, to come back home. That natural state of peace and joyousness that playfully expresses itself, even in manifestation, even in a world like this, even in a projection like this. It's difficult for the mind to just open to the possibility. And then the mind starts to try to understand it, understand the whole situation, understand what is and what is not, what is the truth, understand every detail. And the understanding is simply useful where we become aware, here, if I have a good look and I'm honest, then I see that I'm creating obstacles to being natural, to being normal, as we should be. that inner divinity can express itself. That cannot be understood. We can understand that this possibility is there. We can understand that it's good to look at our own selves. And then often we understand mechanisms that we can let go. And then we see all kinds of mechanisms we cannot even understand those properly, but still that understanding is there. It creates tension. So it's good to take a step back, to detach, to be natural, and let then that natural way of existing express itself. This understanding is very helpful, but then we just can turn back to the source, and there the mind has to give up. Accepting I cannot do anything about it, and yet I have to do something. I cannot do anything about it to become what I am. The very notion is absurd to do something to become what I am. But I can do a lot about the obstacles that we are creating unconsciously over and over and over. The obstacles that are in our mind, that are creating those tensions, that sense of separation and hardening that sense of separation, that me, I'm different from others, me, I'm better, I'm worse, he's better, he's worse, all that stuff that creates all those separation and the plurality. Plurality is nothing wrong if you are aware it's the expression of the same essence. We cannot really grasp this with the mind, and yet we try to grasp it with the mind. So let's not hang on to trying to get it. Okay, we can just open to the possibility there is nothing really to be done. What we are looking for is here now. And then just be in that as good as we can. And if we do that, if we focus on that, then those things that have to be looked at, they come all by themselves. It comes up in the mind. And if we have that sincerity and honesty, then we see, it's just my old mechanisms that is creating that obstacles, that is creating that tension, that is creating that I feel not well, that often I feel miserable. And they can learn not to do that anymore. That much we have to do. Not to get somewhere, but to become aware how we are disturbing being natural, plain and simple. All right, I stop talking. Is there anybody else who would like to come in? You're welcome. Tattvam asi, says the scripture. You are that. There's not the personality who is that specially. There's nothing to be proud about. If the teacher says to the student, you are that, there's nothing to be proud about. You are that, but everybody is that. Everything is that. This whole thing is a momentary appearance. It has its purpose. It has its raison d'être, because one can get experience. And from experience, there one becomes more self-aware. This is the possibility of manifesting in a human form. It gives that experience of consciousness connected to a body. And invariably, with this body, there come a lot of limitations. And invariably, limitations, they are always irritating, because deep down we know we are limitless, timeless, spaceless. But learning to deal with those limitations of that experience in such a way that we are not reacting, but accepting where they are, knowing I'm not tied by it. I'm not a victim of those circumstances. Even if my capacity to manifest certain things on this particular material level have their limitations, those limitations are not of the self. The more we get entangled, the more we get caught in the dream and look at the dream as reality, the more those limitations become solid realities. And then they are always painful. Then they are always forcing consciousness into a small space, which is unnatural. Consciousness naturally is expansive, and forcing consciousness in that small space is painful. That makes people suffer. And to have that possibility every moment, to decide either I let myself go into my old personality habit, create that sense of separation, and then I'm most of the time at war with the whole manifestation. Or I just let that go and become aware, okay, this is just a momentary appearance. It may have its own limitations, the appearance, but I am prior to that. I am not this appearance, I'm just playing the role of this appearance, and in that way I gain experience. We are gaining experience anyhow, but if we are half asleep, if we never take the trouble to look back, to become aware, there is that essence that is prior to all this, then the experience is for most of the people, most of the time, painful. And one is dragging the story on day after day, year after year, always in a way hoping for better times, always in hoping that eventually then life will be really happy and playful and joyous. Not being aware it is already there. If we just don't disturb it, but having the possibility every moment to slip into that trap or detach and be aware of that beauty, of that beautiful essence, then that is a very, very valuable experience, that the essence is projecting into this manifestation, into this time-space continuum, in order to have the possibility to have that experience, essentially remaining the same in experience, expanding all the time. If we remember that, then we learn not to take the whole story so serious. Then sometimes it's happy in the personal life, sometimes it's not happy in the personal life. Sometimes we see wonderful things happening in manifestation, and sometimes we see terrible things happening in manifestation. No matter what is happening, we can learn to know that there is always that aspect that is not affected. You are that aspect. You are prior to time and space. You are prior to all that is happening. You are definitely prior to this personality. This personality is just a momentary projection into this matrix. If we remind ourselves, then we learn not to be so attached to things, not to take the whole damn story so serious. Okay, it's a possibility from moment to moment. Expanding, learning, sometimes in a pleasant way, sometimes in an unpleasant way. But we can learn all the time. In 1982, Amma came here to Tiruvannamalai. We were just a little group with her. We were living there in Nilu's house that was still there. That I, for the first 4 years, with Amma often had the grace to occupy. And then a few people knew there is a special Amma and used to come and want to talk and ask some questions. And there were 3 Swiss girls traveling through India, getting a bit a notion of certain spiritual places, but more like tourists. But then they somehow ended up in front of Amma in that little house and asking questions, asking about this and that, about life, about spirituality. And then one woman asked Amma, point straight, But or can you also learn anything? Or are you in a state totally beyond learning? And Amma, without even hesitating a moment, first she cracked up, had a good laugh, but then, without a moment, she said, yes, of course, I'm learning from everything. I'm learning from everybody. I'm learning from the wind, from the trees, from the sun, from everything that exists. I'm learning all the time. It's not that eventually, when we reach a high state, that process is finished. There's no end to it. That's anyone who is not learning is actually wasting their time here. No matter what state one is in, there is always to learn, there is always the possibility to intensify that experience of that oneness, of that one reality, that oneness that includes the multiplicity, that mystery of existence. There's always to learn. And in that learning, something is happening, some expansion is there that is simply not, we cannot in any way, with the mind, with the intellect, grasp that. Tatvamasi, you are that divinity. We don't have to reach it. We are that. As long as we are denying that, we are invariably slipping into suffering again and again, even if it's not a experience, a direct, immediate experience, but just reminding oneself helps to give detachment. And if we have that detachment, then we're not creating suffering all the time. Then things are unpleasant sometimes, but with detachment, we are not suffering because we're not resisting to what is happening. And if we are not resisting, then simply we flowing with the life, consciously conscious, aware that consciousness, that essence of all that is not affected by anything. And yet, projecting into that whole story, learning, expanding, accumulating the strength for expansion. If we are aware, if we are alert, then even if that process never stops, then there is no more suffering. One goes about it playfully, joyously, sometimes meeting unpleasant situations, sometimes crying, but deep down, there is a joyousness of existence that helps us to go about it in a playful, joyous, and very intensive way. All right, there I have been talking again. Is there anyone who would like to say something? You can come in.
Hari Om.
Hari Om, Vikas.
Werner, I got this picture from Ramana Ashram.
I say, the Sri Chakra.
Yeah, so can you please tell me how to use it and how to meditate on it, how it works, this kind of thing?
Well, I have, incidentally, I have quite a special liking for this Sri Chakra. When I was in my little cave, at a certain time, I started to draw a number of Sri Chakras and putting them up on the wall on all sides. But how you are meditating, how you are using that Sri Chakra, the power of that Sri Chakra is actually a personal love story. For me, somehow that spontaneously, Sri Chakra, spontaneously, I felt it's a symbol for transformation. That's what it was for me mainly. That whenever I was thinking things and I have that Sri Chakra in the back, in the front of me, and on both sides, whenever I looked, then I felt, it's good to transform these kind of thoughts, good to transform these kind of moods, good to become more expansive. But this was my personal, I haven't read that anyone everywhere. Nobody has instructed me. And so maybe the Sri Chakra spontaneously has some very special meaning for you. After having had Sri Chakras in my cave for some time, I asked once somebody to bring a book about it, about Sri Chakra, from the library. And they brought me a thick volume like this. I was already shocked when I saw that. But then I started to read and I understood this is a whole book of scholarly explanations about every line, about every angle, about every point, about everything of the Sri Chakra. And I absolutely could do nothing with that. If somebody wants to read that and get knowledgeable about it, that's fine. That's okay. But for me, it was important. This was a symbol for something that was very useful to me personally. And so that's how it became something that is very dear to me. And I think you just, instead of trying to have a proper practice, a proper sequence of things that you have to do with the Sri Chakra, then you just open your heart and see what the Sri Chakra means for you. And then it becomes a reminder for you whenever you see it. Whenever you see the picture, whenever you see it in your subtle vision, the image comes again, then that which comes to you naturally, what it means, what it symbolizes, you will remember that, and it will help you in that situation to go about it with more enthusiasm and strength. It's that just be sure that you put it the right side, the right way, not upside down. I don't know whether it's true, but some karma kandi who is doing a lot of pujas and stuff said it's very inauspicious to put it the wrong way up.
I'll check that. I'll check that.
Right. And otherwise, just let the Sri Chakra tell your heart what it means, and then keep it as a reminder for that. There is a special power in it. It has been used since time immemorial. A lot in pujas related to the Divine Mother, and something that has been associated so strongly has in itself its own power, its own energy. So if you have naturally developed a healthy, a loving connection to that, then it can be quite a helpful tool, a helpful companion rather than a tool.
Thank you. Hari Om. Hari Om.
Hari Om. You're welcome. Hari Om. That was funny how this happened. I had seen the Sri Chakra time and again. In all my time in India, I always thought it's fascinating, but I didn't feel any special connection. And then, when I was sitting in my cave and somebody came, the, at the entrance of my cave, there was this gate of bars. You could look through it, the air could go through, but it was a gate that was closed. And somebody uh, had been on the other side of that gate with a book and walked out, and out of that book, a little Sri Chakra slipped out and fell in front of me, and somehow that moment it just had a tremendous effect. Wow, this is powerful. And so it started that I had three chakras with me all the time in that period, and it developed some kind of an affinity naturally, not because I thought, it's a good thing to do, but it just so happened suddenly it flew there in front of me, that little image like this of the Sri Chakra, and hit me. And after that, I kept it as a helpful companion. It's still hanging in the house and different places. We don't need to go after such things, but if on the way such helpful things are happening, then we can very well embrace them and integrate it in our practice, in our story, to make the story richer. There is some more time. If anybody would like to say something, you can do so. All right. Seems not to be the case. So let's just, for a few minutes, sit here together. Just be together. Look that you are somewhat in a comfortable position, that the body is not disturbing too much. Then just be here and relax. Relaxing doesn't mean to go to sleep. Relaxing simply means relaxing. Relax, alert, intensely alert, and yet relaxed. Don't get interested in the thoughts that want to carry the attention away. No need of fighting the thoughts. Just see, there are waves in that consciousness. There are objects. Don't go along with it. Simply redirect the attention to being conscious here, now. Consciously conscious here, now. Consciously alive here, now. Whatever thoughts there are, however important they seem to be, just right now, don't give them any importance. They come, they go, but you are here, here, now. Intensely alert and yet relaxed. Thoughts come and go, emotions come and go, body sensations come and go. You are here, immovable, timelessly present. Whatever sounds that are intruding, they also come and go. Sometimes it's pleasant sounds, sometimes it's less pleasant sounds. That which makes the experience possible doesn't move, is here, is now, timelessly now. Just bring the attention back home. Whenever it slips away, come home and relax. Intensely alert and yet relaxed. And then we can very consciously become more aware also again of the body, of the surroundings. But still, even if we start to become active again, we can carry that awareness with us. That silent background is always there, immovable. Nothing can hurt it. And yet we can move, we can again go out, be with people, talk to people, and start our daily life stories. And then still remember, deep down there, nothing moves. Nothing can be hurt. There's that joyous existence. Wish you all well. Hari Om. Hari Om. Hari Om.